Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to the EdTechTeam Teaching and Learning Monthly Webinar. We are super excited, and I'm going to go ahead and screen share here with everyone. We are super excited for this month's topic. We are talking about innovative strategies for social studies and the history class. And I am super excited to have Dr. Micah Shippey, 7th grade social studies teacher and geo maven extraordinaire from Liverpool, New York. We've got Allison Langley, 11th grade social studies teacher with us from Kentucky. And Allison has some amazing tools and ideas to share with us. And finally, Nate Kellogg's coming to us from New Orleans. I can't even talk tonight. And Nate's going to share some really innovative uses for technology and concepts to innovate with history and the social studies classroom. You can find all of today's resources at edtech.team/innovate-with-history. We also have a form there in that slide deck when you get there that you can fill out that form for a chance to win a free online course from EdTechTeam at the end of our time together today. So without further ado, we switched things up a little bit. We switched our order, and I'm going to hand the microphone over to Micah Shippey. Micah, welcome. I know you have so much to share with us tonight, so I'll go ahead and mute myself.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. Hi, everybody. All right, so let's pull this up and get rolling. So I have a couple of strategies that I've been using in my 7th grade social studies classroom that I thought I would share with each of you this evening, morning, night, etc. One that I just started to play with last week is using Google Slides for notes guides. So in many of our social studies classrooms, we pride ourselves on our vast collection of documentaries. But our video guides and our note guides for readings oftentimes aren't updated. So what I started to do is to take my old notes guide on a reading and take each question and put it as a slide in the Google slide deck. And I asked students to go ahead and record their responses on those slides. And then as an incentive to inspire them to continue after every 5 questions, they would go back and insert an image that helps them remember the answer. So in some cases, they were talking about a guy in a hot air balloon carrying a note, and he carried the note because he didn't want people to think he was an alien, so they put an alien on there. Or the word felicity, what does it mean? And the student chose to put the word happiness in Scrabble letters. And that's totally their choice on it. So just a little quick tip on trying a different way of note guides. In the SAMR model, it's just a simple form of substitution. But as Lisa said, one of my big jams here is geo tools, Google Geo tools. And amongst those, my great fallback is Google My Maps. So My Maps, which is located at mymaps.google.com, is a really cool way of having students develop their own historical atlases. What I've been doing with this is having students add a layer, as you can see here, add a layer each time we have a form of content in our classroom. So let me show you an example of that on my screen. So here's my historical atlas that my students have been using. And you see, if I click those, this is stuff the students filled in to demonstrate where the Spanish holdings were in the English and the French. And as I hover, it highlights this. Now, my students did all of this. I was super impressed by what they were able to do with My Maps. Then I said, well, let's add after the French and Indian War right on top of that layer. And here we identified areas of conflict. So we could predict the war in the French and Indian War, the battles would occur in these overlapping areas. For students, it started to get a little bit overwhelming, and I reminded them of these layers, adding layers and hiding layers. It's a simple way to just make it go away. Then we would add geographic features like the proclamation line of 1763, the American Revolution battles, where they would type in the name of a battle and just drop a pin. This is a really cool way for students to keep a live, dynamic student atlas, which they fill in, like in this case, the puzzle pieces of the United States. Creating My Maps is relatively easy to do. There's several tutorials available online. I have a slide deck, an additional slide deck resource I've linked here called bit.ly/geomicah, and that will bring you into a couple of places that can provide you with some more tutorials. On top of that, My Maps has this share button. It's one of our favorite googly things. And share means I can collaborate on a My Map. I can even make it public for anyone in the world to edit. And I used that little technique when my students and I created a virtual walking tour of the town cemetery. Sounds awesome and creepy at the exact same time, doesn't it? Let me see if I can pull that up for you here. Oops, excuse me 1 second. All right, there we go. So here I teach 12-year-olds, so I'm always conscious of what they're going to do as soon as I give them open access to things. I gave them a full open share, and with the full open share, students dropped pins at historical markers that are related to people that they were studying. So while these are not historically famous individuals, they're people who were alive during the content that I teach. So I asked them to create a biographical sketch of 10 things that would have happened while this person was alive in American history. So this is kind of giving a rich resource for our students to understand the value of community in the area, but also to make our community resources available to people all over the world. My next slide here, I have a couple of examples of what students did. It's just kind of funny how they took the ball and ran with it. The first day I showed students how to trace layers called polygons on Google My Maps. This student, Bryce, went home and traced all 50 states. A little ambitious, but I thought that was kind of cool. And then I had 2 other boys who just last week showed me risk meets conspiracy theory, but I'm not sure what's going on. I just thought it was really cool that they took the skill set we learned on My Maps and synthesized it for their own fun. Maybe they're just a little bit nerdy. Next, I wanted to share Cospaces with you. It's an awesome resource for creating virtual reality. Here is a model of my middle school that a student created using Minecraft-like skills. They recently opened up the features so that you can actually now collaborate. So you're not making a Cospace image for yourself. So here's the tutorial my student created. We can spin it, drive around it, see where the buses park. Really kind of a cool way of making a CAD image more accessible. And one of the really neat things about Cospaces is that once you create it on a Chromebook or a device, you can then share it with people to view in their free VR viewer. So then you'd use the trigger in a VR viewer to walk you through these experiences. If you want to tie in some coding, students can cause each image to do something. I could click on this camel and make him jump or turn pink. You can gamify it a little bit as well. They have a lot of free resources available through Cospaces. They have a basic and a pro version. If you're interested in it, I would definitely try the basic. Use it as a little filler. Try it with the students. Say, hey, let's try this out. Build me a Mayan pyramid. Let's see what it looks like. And see if the students really grab onto it and it fits your learning context. That's all I have for today. Thanks, Lisa. I hope everybody found something useful in that set.
Oh, Micah, that's awesome information. I'm always so fascinated by what you're working on in your classes, and that you get to come to so many of our summits and share it as well, and our custom summits as well. I'm going to go ahead and screen share again for a moment here. And here we go. Sorry, I'm pressing the wrong button here. Okay, so I do want to stop for questions. I know we don't have questions yet. There's a lot of chatter going on in the back channel on Twitter. And so what I'll do is after our next speaker comes up, who's going to be Nate Kellogg, then we'll stop for questions from the chat. I do want to remind everyone that everything having to do with today's hour-long webinar can be found at edtech.team/innovate-with-history. So the slides from all of our stellar presenters, plus a link to the archive chat and a link to the archive webinar will all be towards the end of this slide deck. Also, you have a chance to complete this form to win a free online course from EdTechTeam. So that's a $149 course that you'll actually get for nothing. I'm going to use a random name picker called Name Picker Ninja. That's my favorite tool recently, to choose a winner from the folks that go ahead and fill out the form. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the microphone over to Nate Kellogg from Louisiana. You'd think that Micah showed it all, but there's more. So let me stop screen sharing and mute and hand everything over to Nate.
Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate it. And Micah, thank you so much for what you shared. I loved how you used my maps for the American Revolution. I wish I had thought of that. I used it for World War II with my 8th graders. That's so awesome. Thank you for that. So I'm going to jump in. I'm going to screen share right now so that you can see my tabs as well. So I am no longer in the classroom, not currently in the classroom. I'm the Director of Personalized Learning for Renew Schools in New Orleans, a small group of charter schools. But before that, I was a social studies teacher. I taught for 6 years, most recently in 7th and 8th grade social studies. So really excited to be able to talk about 3 specific strategies, tools, really resources that I'm excited about right now. So the first one I want to jump in with is the Stanford History Education Group. And if folks aren't familiar with them, if you are familiar with them, I apologize. You could tell me more about it than even I know. But SHEG, as it's called, is one of my favorite resources for social studies teachers. It provides a great framework for primary sources. And so I'm going to jump to show you what it looks like in the back end here. There's the Stanford History Education Group website. And here on the Reading Like a Historian page, they've got a ton of lessons that I can show you here. A whole laundry list of lessons for American history, also for world history. But even more important than just the lessons to me is the strategies that they've created to help teachers lead students through analyzing primary sources. So I'll show an example here. This is the student-facing materials for the Boston Massacre, which I used in my class. So here is a first-hand account from an officer in the British Army. There's one primary source. We've got another primary source from a resident here. And then it leads students through how to pick apart what they've seen. Also, the images we put on the screen, you're probably familiar with this classic from Paul Revere of the scene of the Boston Massacre. And what the SHEG will be able to walk you through, as you can see on the slide here, is 4 steps. And those 4 steps are sourcing, so figuring out who wrote the piece, what their perspective is, contextualizing what the timing was like around the time that the event happened or that the document was created, the circumstances that come with that. And then students get into corroborating, which is really cool. So you start to look at whose perspectives overlap and where there might be facts or where they might differ and where we might need to find more information. And finally, close reading, being able to understand what evidence that the primary source is including, if it's a document, for example, and be able to build from that. But with that, I wanted to include some information on primary source locations. This is a session I've done at a number of our Google Summits where we talk about where to find primary sources. Google Newspapers is a really interesting source. It's got a lot of great resources for us to be able to see. Instead of using microfiche, as you might have used, as I did in college, you can be able to access newspapers from far back as 100 years or so. Library of Congress and the National Archives have great resources, as well as the Digital Public Library of America. And also, I've found that we've got some great stuff locally that I'm also going to talk about in just a little bit as well. So that's the first piece of this with primary sources. And also, just to point out, there's also a link here for more information about that for folks if they'd like to find it. The next piece is the Google Arts and Culture app. You might be familiar with this from their recent brilliant idea, which was to allow people to find their doppelgangers in art and history. I don't know if anybody in this group has used that, but it's a pretty funny app to be able to look up your face. You take a selfie, and you can find a doppelganger or someone who looks like you from the past. What the reality is that was a fun gimmick to get you interested in Google Arts and Culture, and it's really one of my favorite tools for teachers. So I'm going to jump to it to show you what it looks like right here. This is the home screen for it. What's great about this is that you are able to look in to see artifacts, to see photographs, to pull resources, primary sources from different events, different times and places. that you're interested in. And not only can you use this as a teacher to introduce content, you can also use this and have your students to be able to curate their own content. So if we're analyzing themes across different events, we want to be able to show what those are. We can jump in with that. So if I pull in here, I'm actually going to click on nearby. I want to find some items that are actually near where I am here in New Orleans to demonstrate how you can use this. And you can see it pulls up a map. It's got some locations. I can look at what the Amistad Research Center has for artifacts. And they curate stories in addition to having the individual artifacts themselves. So if I want to pull up one of these artifacts here, one of the great things about the Google Arts and Culture app is that you can actually, it's not just saying, oh, here's this document and here's some information about it, but instead I can zoom in. And you can zoom in far more than you maybe think you would be possible. So you can see I'm zooming, that's full zoom. This is really, really closely photographed. And that's one of the great things about Google. And it does this with artwork as well, and a number of things. So pretty cool to be able to access this. This is one of my favorites by far, the Google Arts and Culture app. The app itself also includes some other virtual reality stuff. So actually, if you are on the home screen, you can see they have some 360 street view experiences, so you can see museums as well as other cultural experiences around the world. And you can also do that in the app. And the other piece is that you can, as I said before, you can curate this. So if I find an artifact, I'm actually going to go right back to the artifact we were on, and I favorite it, I can now go see my favorites in my profile, and I can create a gallery. So you can see I made this earlier actually today. And I can even make one brand new just by hitting the plus sign. And then all of a sudden we've got a gallery that we can share out with others to see. So really easy. They've got a share button. You even see I can share it directly to Classroom. And again, I think this is a great way either to spark curiosity and sort of to begin an inquiry-based lesson perhaps with your students. So you could share a collection of artifacts to preview a topic, but also for students to create their own, to be able to share something they're passionate about. Perhaps they're doing a jigsaw activity, or they're just making connections about themes from the class. So that's the Google Arts and Culture app. And last but not least, I'll wrap this up quickly, but this is something important to me as a world geography teacher was being able to see how we can use technology to map the world differently. And there are some great examples of maps that have more of a purpose than just, hey, geography, what's around us? So for example, one really great one here called Native Land allows you to see who were the indigenous people who are where I am currently right now. And so this is a great way even to start students in thinking, if I'm in New Orleans, who were the first people to be on this land? So I can see this is the Chickasaw tribe and I can learn about them. And you can see where they actually extended where their people extended their space in North America. So pretty cool to be able to see that. That's one example. In terms of a few of my favorites here beyond that, I am a big fan of the Equal Justice Institute. Brian Stevenson, you might be familiar with him. This is a organization that Google has actually supported quite a bit. And he's got two maps here, one showing a heat map of lynchings in the United States by state. So you can see, but even down to not even just state, sorry, but all the way down into your, in this case, it's parish for us. I think you guys would call it county, perhaps. But with that, also, you can see the Great Migration. They have a great map for studying that, where you can see over time how the makeup of the United States changed as people of color migrated north and west out of the south. So that's another great example. And I'll wrap up. Just one more to check out. This is which one could I choose? I'll just go with the Opportunity Project because they have the most. This is really worth checking out. This is from the United States Census, but this is a great one to bring in. You can see they have dozens of projects where other people have taken their data and created maps. So you can have students analyze different topics. So I'll leave with that. That's a lot of different sources. I hope I didn't go over time here, Lisa, but thanks for letting me share.
No, you didn't go over time at all, Nate. And actually, right, go ahead. Yeah. So actually, I want to bring it back to you because we've got quite a lot of comments in the YouTube pop out chat. First of all, I love Lori's comment because she said, I never knew I could create a gallery. I didn't know that either. So I'm so, that's amazing. And Felissa said the same thing. The other thing is Christopher Lewis was saying that he loves VR and Google Cardboard, you know, the integration of it in Google Arts and Culture. He has his students walk through the Palace of Versailles Hall of Mirrors. If you were going to have somebody like start with this program, where would you have them start?
Good question. I think, well, starting with Google Arts and Culture, you don't have to do the virtual reality piece first. I think exploring things on a screen is easier, and having, you can do the virtual reality experience in 2D on your projector with students to sort of see how it works. I think that's probably where I would start, depending on the age group and what you're talking about. But I think with virtual reality, I mean, honestly, it's shocking how easy it is. I think downloading the Google Cardboard app and just clicking on things and seeing, oh, I guess I'm going to look at this today, right? Obviously, there needs to be, before you jump in with kids, you need to experience it yourself. But I think there's a very low level of lift for teachers to be able to learn the tool, at least initially, to get into it and have students trying it. To make the jump to Google Expeditions, where you're having a whole class set of VR, is definitely something that I would want to have experience using myself just individually or in a small group for sure, piloting it with a small group. But I think the basics of virtual reality you can download on your phone but before this webinar is over and already know how to use it.
I love that. I love that. Thanks for sharing that. And the other thing, you know, Micah was mentioning that it's super great for like the paintings and, you know, Felissa, and it might be Felisa, I really apologize, loved the zooming in for analyzing documents. I mean, the possibilities are just endless. I want to switch back to Micah just for a moment, if you don't mind. Micah, Brooke had a question in the chat. She asked, how do you go about introducing Cospaces to your students?
So Cospaces, when you go to the website and sign up using a Google account, has a gallery of all the ways that it can be used, a lot of examples. And one of them is called Welcome to Cospaces. And the Welcome to Cospaces gallery experience is actually a tutorial. So you go through phases that show you how to use the features in the app. And so for students, I said, look, if you go through the tutorial within this class period, then you're welcome to go ahead and start creating. And I give them some topic related to what we're studying in class and ask them to try to replicate it using their imagination. But that tutorial is very intuitive. My 12-year-old students had no problem with it. I actually did it with my 8-year-old, my 10-year-old at home first, and they had no problem hopping in and creating pretty quick.
Thanks, Micah. Actually, Felisa said she uses Minecraft to do this. Yeah, just mentioning it.
Minecraft. Yeah. Just I like some of the things in Cospaces that lend themselves to, you know, coding and extending beyond just what Minecraft does on the surface.
Yeah, and Lori asked if we have a Cospaces workshop at an EdTechTeam Summit. Lori's going to have to email me privately and let me know where she lives so we can make sure that you're presenting at the summit that's by her.
She lives. Take care of her.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll make that happen. So I'm going to screen share again before we introduce our final panelists for tonight. And I just want to review that you can get to all the resources at edtech.team/innovatewithhistory. I've had a couple of people in the YouTube chat saying they're having an issue with the link. I would go incognito and try it. Sometimes it can be the sharing settings in your district that's not allowing you to view it. We've tried the link incognito, and we've got, you know, about 100 people that have looked at that link from their Google accounts. Also, we're going to go back for a second. Also, there's a form there. In probably just about 10 minutes, I'm going to draw a name from those people that have filled out the form for you to win a free course with EdTechTeam Online, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So our final speaker, and make sure to put your questions in the chat, any questions, follow-up questions that you have for Nate or Micah or for Allison, as she shares with you how she engages students using technology and innovative ideas in her high school social studies classroom. So I'm going to stop sharing and hand the mic over to.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay? Thumbs up?
Perfect.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share really quickly so I can get back to the slide deck here. Okay, you guys good?
We don't see the slide deck.
All right. Yeah. Let me get back to my slides here. Find it over here. I'm up here. Oh, nope, we're out of order. That's right. Okay. So Micah talked about a little bit with Google Earth. My students absolutely love doing map stuff as well. And one of their favorite things to do is road trips. And so I'm going to show you a couple different examples of what we do with our road trips. The first thing is Civil War battle sites that we do. And this just kind of takes the students around. And again, this can be collaborative or it can be... Oops.
So Allison, your screens are all coming, this screen is coming up blank.
Or it can, where the students like to go here, and what I've done on some of these is build in pictures of the different places. There's some YouTube videos that talk about the different places. This is just a really good interactive way that the students can go and explore, kind of see where the different areas are in relation to where they live. I teach in a very diverse community because of our military background right here outside of Fort Knox. So the kids kind of like to see where the different places are where they've actually been, where they've lived, and how it is in relation to there. Another one of the places that we do, rather than actually just tell the kids about it, is we do a civil rights movement road trip. Same concept. We build in different types of places that the students can go. Well, maybe it'll come up here in a minute. But again, we build pictures from the different places. We build in the YouTube clips. It's important. And the kids really enjoy doing this versus just a standard lecture. You can see this one right here is all about the Children's March in Birmingham. So the students will actually listen to a little clip of that we've embedded there. This is just something that they really, really enjoy to do. Another thing that I've linked up here on the Google Earth website is you can kind of go into here and it will have preloaded places that you can check out. The students really like going here and seeing the different places, what it looks like in perspective on here, and they can do like a quick little Google search on that. Micah is the king, and now that I've met Nate virtually, you guys are awesome with your Google Earth stuff. I've learned a lot just from you all here today, so I won't do too much there on Google Earth, but that's just another option that our students really like to do there. One thing that I found that I'm going to bump down to real quick since we're in the Earth app is on Voyager, and I was actually looking for some examples last night on this, and I found a super cool voyage to share. And I'm actually adding this to my agenda for teaching tomorrow, maybe if we get back off of our snow day today. But in the Voyager app over here, y'all, I'm running super slow today. Let me get out of there and I can come back to that while that loads. So let me bump up here while that other loads. I've got our super slow internet connection here tonight. Of doing, they call them live action guides. And what we do is I create a template for the students that engages them in conversation virtually. Classroom, or the students can do it live. Either way, our kids love doing this. And I've kind of changed this to take out some of their names, but I'll pull this up really quickly and you can see what it looks like. So this is a document that we did on the Civil War Review, and I put the questions or the prompts in and I color code them, and the students know what the color coding means. The color coding on some means that they can only answer it once. The green ones are higher order thinking questions so they can see. But the students all go in and put their response, and then the peer comments are where the peers come in and comment behind them, maybe have something to add to the conversation. And then we also have comments over there on the side, but I took all of those out. You can see up there on my draft back how many different revisions there's been, just to protect student confidentiality, because there are some names and things linked in there. But this is a really good conversation piece for our students. A lot of students that don't feel comfortable answering out loud in class, they like to use this document, and then it essentially becomes for the students a study guide. This is one thing that they really love. They love being able to get on here and comment. A lot of them will race to certain questions because they know they want those bonus points for the higher order questions faster. So that's one thing that they really enjoy. Another thing that my students like doing is presentations and slide decks. So here's one thing that we did recently on Jordan and John Adams, and what the students is, I give them a template that's on it, and then they get to go in and create their own based on what they want to put in it. They're able to show their own individual tastes and styles, and they can change up the fonts. Everything's to their own. But the students collaborate on this and go in, and I really love that they have the Explore tool now in slides so that the students can put their sources in fairly easily of where they're getting their information. In the actual presentation, they put their sources in the speaker notes, but on here, as you know, if you click on the picture, it will also credit where they found that in Google Images. The last thing I wanted to kind of touch on with Google Arts and Culture, the galleries. I love that Nate talked about that. That is probably one of my single-handedly favorite things to do with my students. One thing we love doing during World War II is showing them the different artwork that was stolen from Hitler during World War II. And there's actually a whole gallery, if I can get it to come up here, of stolen art right here. And so it's just want to do a cross-curricular project with our art department on this whenever we can. And this pulls up all the different stolen art from World War II. The kids really get into this project. They really didn't know much about it until we get going in there. And that Voyager is not going to come up because I'm running super slow on my internet tonight. Last thing I want to talk about is a couple different apps that are integrated with Google Classroom. We have right here my favorite one, Quizzes, and I'm going to pull that up in just a second, and also Flipgrid. Flipgrid is just a platform where students can respond to prompts that you give them. They can collaborate with each other. I've linked it in here on the slide deck if anybody wants to check that out. But I'm going to take you to Quizzes really quickly and show you. It is completely integrated with Google Classroom, which is awesome. The grading, everything. But Quizzes comes loaded with tons of ready-made quizzes for your students. And the thing that I like about this one versus like Kahoot or another type of platform is, for my students, I teach in a collaborative classroom. Students sometimes struggle with the 30-second timing on those. So when you go to Quizzes, you have the option to take the timing piece out. And you'll see here when you go, I've just pulled up one of my simple quizzes. When you go in here and there's a, sorry guys, I'm running super slow tonight. Let me close out some of this other stuff. Well, there's an option to take out all of the timing questions. There's an option to take out where you would actually jump answers and the question choices. So you can create your own quizzes. You can take one of their quizzes that are already done and edit them, or you can just straight take one of their own quizzes. But when you go and create, like in the quiz, I'll show you if it'll let me pull it up here. Go to play live, like this winter one, if I wanted to do this with my students. Here's your options where the students, you can take off the question timer down here. You You can shuffle the answer questions and shuffle the answer options. This is really great for us. We're finding that we're getting a lot better read on our students doing it this way, because they're not all seeing the same thing at the same time. Kind of forces them to think on their own a little bit instead of just choosing what other people pick. So this is one, like I said, it's fully integrated with Google Classroom. You can pin it to your classroom as homework, or you can just put it as a regular assignment, or you can play the game live. So this is one that I really enjoy. I hope you guys will find use for that. Going back here again, I was going to try to get that Google Arts and Culture map up here. Or I'm sorry, the Voyager. Let me see if I can get it to run this time. Got it linked in here. Well, maybe not.
Allison, do you want to just come back on screen and
Spinning Wheel of Death, guys.
Allison, you want to come back on screen and tell us about it? All right. Well, it looks like Allison's having, you know, some technical issues on her side. Things were running real slow and we didn't hear her. Unfortunately, I don't want everyone to wait. So, she shared all of her resources in the slide deck. So I'm going to do a quick screen share and just come back to a few things over here. I didn't have any final questions for the panelists, but such great ideas shared in the chat. So let me go over and, oh, I can't get to screen sharing. Why not? Probably because Allison is screen sharing. Let's see. Let me hide her. Oh, lovely. So I can't screen share either. That's no fun. Let's try. We're going to have to eject Allison, and I still can't screen share. Okay. Well, you guys all know that the resources can be found at edtech.team /innovate with history. We are going to, in just a minute, no, I know, Laura, you can see me. I was just trying to screen share my screen, so that was unfortunate. Oh, Micah, you're the best. Thank you. So Micah's just showing, last 30 seconds to enter to win. I know tech fails all the time, Lewis. So all the resources can be found at edtech.team /innovate with history. Micah, would you go to the next slide, please? All right. So EdTechTeam offers about 24 free online courses. They're 15 hours, work at your own pace. And tonight you have a chance to win a free one valued at $149. Next slide, please, Micah. We invite you to learn more and stay connected with EdTechTeam. We've been tweeting out on Twitter. We have a Google Plus community with about 40,000 educators in it talking about just good teaching and learning. And join us at edtechteam.com. Micah? Awesome. So linked in that slide deck is everything you need. A link to the archive webinar on YouTube, a link to the archive chat. I'm going to have it posted there in about 5 minutes. A link to request a workshop with EdTechTeam. Bring us to you. Bring one of the panelists to you. And if you want a 1-hour PD certificate for the time that you spent with us tonight, go ahead and click that last link there as well. Could you go to the next slide, Micah? All right. So announcing next month's webinar, we have 3 very special guest panelists with us because Google EdTechTeam is now working on an initiative called K2 Can Do, and it's exactly what you think it is. It is technology integration in the classroom specifically for your kindergarten, 1st and 2nd graders. If you're not from the US, if you're from Canada, that's grade 1 and grade 2. And if you're from overseas or somewhere else, we're talking about 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-olds. So the next webinar will be April 11th, and we have Susan Stewart, Mia Leonard, and Oh my gosh, now I'm embarrassed with our third and final speaker. I should have known that. But it was somebody that came so highly recommended from Susan Stewart that we invited her to join us. So we're so super excited. Micah, could you go to the next slide? All right, so I'm going to put the free winner. Now, you guys can't see me do the name picker ninja, but our winner is, drum roll please, silent drum roll please. Our winner is, and it's going to pop up right here, is, and it didn't pop up yet, is, wow, it's not popping up yet, is Luis Pertus. So Luis, you're going to get an email from me introducing you to our Director of Online Learning right after this session. And then maybe it's just my computer that's not working. So again, thank you, Micah. Thank you, Nate, for spending the time with us this evening, sharing innovative ways to integrate technology and engage your students in the social studies and history classroom. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks.
Hi.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.